Hello everyone, how are you doing today? I am Constance and thank you for joining me in the next episode of my English class. Today we're going to be talking about grammatical rules and we are on rule number 2. We have done rule number 1 and now we'll be doing rule number 2. Alright, so let's begin. Grammatical rule number 2. And the rule says if you use either or, look at the subject closest to the verb. If you're going to be using the words either or, look at the subject closest to the verb. If the subject closest to the verb is singular, use a singular verb. If the subject closest to the verb is singular, use a singular verb. Okay? And here are some examples I have written out for you. Alright, so let's go over them together. Either, which is the same either here, either Miss Brown or Jane writes on the blackboard. Either Miss Brown or Jane writes on the blackboard. Jane is the subject and writes is the closest to Jane. So writes is the verb. So this would be the verb, alright? So I have written SV representing singular verb on the right. So writes would be the singular verb. So either Miss Brown or Jane writes on the blackboard. Jane is the subject, just as the instruction says, and writes is the verb, okay, and it is closest, whatever is closest to the subject. The next sentence says, either the teacher or the students write on the blackboard. Either the teacher or the students write on the blackboard. In this case, students is plural. Okay, so we're going to be using a plural verb. Alright, so I have written PV for plural verb. Okay, the instructions goes on to say, this also applies to not only, but also nor and neither. So these words which I've underlined or highlighted, these rules also apply to them, alright? So the subject closest to the verb determines whether the verb is singular or plural. The subject closest to the verb determines whether the verb is singular or whether it is plural. It's a bit windy here. I like the breeze, but it's blowing my board. Alright, so let's get back to the class, to the topic. Sorry. The subject closest to the verb determines whether the verb is singular or whether it is plural. So some more examples I've written out and let's look at them. Not only Julia and her parents, but also Patrick wants to visit Grandma. Not only Julia and her parents, but also Patrick wants to visit Grandma. Patrick is singular and it is also the subject. Alright, so we're going to be using a singular verb. So wants would be the singular verb, just as I've underlined it here for you. So I've also written SV indicating that this wants is a singular verb. Number 2, not only Patrick but also Julia and her parents. Not only Patrick, but also Julia and her parents want to visit Grandma. In this case, parents as an S making it plural. Sorry, I said making it plural. So we're going to be using a plural verb. Alright? So want would be the plural verb, and it is closest to the subject. And the subject here is parents. Alright? It is closest to the subject, and the subject here is parents. And parents is plural, so we're using a plural verb, just as the instruction as indicated. Alright? So whether the verb is singular or plural, the subject closest to the verb determines whether the verb is singular or plural. Okay? So you will know if the verb is singular or plural if it is closest or nearest. Whatever is nearest to the subject, that is the verb you're going to be using. So if it is singular, you use a singular verb, and if it is plural, you use a plural verb. Alright? So this is the end of this class. Please take careful note of these examples so you can have them to use in your exams, in your everyday schoolwork. Alright? So my name is Constance. I thank you for watching, and I hope you join me in my next class. Until then, bye.